Welcome to the Sports Bros Podcast, featuring the almighty B-Live, the money man Scotty D, and your host, the head of creative Eddie Cool. The Sports Bros Podcast, by the fan, for the fan, talking sports just the way you like it. And without any further ado, let's give it up for the Sports Bros. Happy New Year's, happy holiday season to you and yours. I hope your Christmas was great, phenomenal, wonderful, and amazing. We're back for the first time in 2023, or as the kids say, the Jordan year. And this is another episode of the Sports Bros Podcast. I go by the name of the head of creative, Eddie Cool, here at Sports Bros Podcast. And of course, I have two of the best co-hosts in the world because I try to do it by myself, but it ain't just as fun. Introducing first the almighty B-Live.
What's happening? What's going on in the world today? Of course, let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room. And I don't want to address as an elephant, but essentially the sports world is upside down right now. And I think I can speak for all of us when we say that this is definitely going to be different. But this is 2023, and we would feel amiss if we did not come before you and do our very best to present a podcast that's by the fan for the fan. And this definitely is from a fan perspective. Thoughts and prayers as always, and we'll get into that just a little bit. But that's when I say what's happening, what's going on in the world, we already know. And so, man, just that's where we're at right now as a podcast. Go ahead and introduce the other guy, let him do what he does, and then let's go ahead and get into it. You know how it is. Yes, sir.
All right, and the other guy, he is the pride of Washington, Pennsylvania, the assistant athletic director at the Trinity High School. He is the one, the only, the money man, Scotty D.
Well, Happy New Year to you guys. It is actually really good to see you and be speaking with you after a couple weeks. And ordinarily, I would sing right now. Not going to do it this week. It's just, I don't feel like I'm kind of in the singing mood. I'm thrilled to be with you guys and talking with you guys. But this is actually a show like we've never done before because we're emotional like the rest of the country is right now. I mean, this thing with young Demar Hamlin that took place on Monday Night Football is actually it's kind of rallied the country together, so to speak. I mean, immediately that night on Facebook, on social media, you see all kind of posts from everybody with their heart going out to this kid and thoughts and prayers. And I hear that phrase, thoughts and prayers, and I really hope that when you say that you mean that, because I first found this out at leaving my job on Monday night. I wasn't watching the game yet, and I just suddenly, as I'm leaving my job, literally clocking out, walking out the door, I'm getting a flurry of text messages about what's going on, and I flip it on the radio, and I'm listening to what's going on ESPN radio as I'm driving home, and at that point, this is when Zach Taylor, the Bengals head coach, had walked across the field and spoke to the Bills sideline and said, they agreed they were going to leave the field. And at that point, I knew, man, this has got to be really, really serious. And right on the spot, I actually said a prayer for this kid. And that was not the last one that I've said for this kid. So thoughts and prayers is a nice sentiment, but really pray for this kid. Because I actually saw Dan Orlovsky on ESPN bow his head, and he said, the Bills believe in the power of prayer, so I do too. And him and Marcus Spears, and I forget the young lady that was hosting ESPN, the blonde girl on that particular show, they prayed together. So I also believe in the power of prayer. As the ambulance drove away and the Bills team was on the sideline kneeling together praying, I believe in the power and the strength of that. So that's where we're at with this. B-Live, we were talking earlier, we didn't hear much on Tuesday. We're recording this Tuesday night, and I hope that by the time Eddie gets this blended and released on Wednesday, that there is good news. But as of right now, there is really no news from what we heard when we went to bed on Monday night.
Yeah. And speaking of that, if you're just joining us, and I don't want to say haven't really been paying attention, but we're talking about Demar Hamlin, safety for the Buffalo Bills. He collapsed last night, last night in Cincinnati, Ohio, as the Buffalo Bills were on the road taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. What looked to be just like a regular routine tackle, it quickly turned into something else after the fact. When Hamlin tackled him, he stood up to adjust himself, and next thing you know, he just fell to the ground. And from reports, it says, he suffered, he's still in critical condition after suffering a cardiac arrest, suffering cardiac arrest. B Lab, what is the exact the exact thing that happened? It has a name to it. What is the exact thing that happened?
Well, here's one thing about it. We actually haven't heard anything official from the medical facility.
Hmm.
There's been a lot of speculation, and so one
Cardiac event, I think, is what they were saying, right?
well
Event is what I
An
heard.
event,
well
yeah.
essentially he went into cardiac arrest, which is
Right.
like where his heart did stop on the field. They applied CPR, defib. They were able to resuscitate him. He was not able to breathe on his own. He was intubated, where they put a breathing tube down your throat to bring air to your body and everything. So there isn't really an official status to what exactly happened, but there has been a couple of terms that one term in particular. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick. There's
I saw that.
commotio cordis. It's been a term, again, this has been just speculation. There has been no official report from the medical facility. But commotio cordis is when a particular spot, you're hit in a particular spot on your breastplate and it causes your heart to immediately stop. It's more commonly known in baseball because of the force in the side of the ball hitting in an exact spot. But there has not been an official statement on what happened. We just know that he collapsed, his heart did stop beating. Um, as of right now, the only thing that we know that he is in critical condition. He, according to outlets, according to I believe a statement from his family, from his marketing representative, a good friend of his, that he is now sleeping, but he still remains in critical condition. And so, as Scotty D mentioned earlier, and it is a sentiment, but we, like I said, we just all we can do, thoughts and prayers. That's
Yeah.
why even when recording this, it's tough to do because there's so many things we can talk about, but we don't
Yeah.
want
I,
to.
well, I was looking forward to cutting up a little bit and talking about the. I mean, we've seen since we last got together. There's been 2 weeks of NFL and college bowl games, and I was looking forward to cutting up, and I had some other things to share for a Pepper Point. And honestly, this is kind of strange, but we had not done a choices of the voices topic, and I was going to present one on this episode for the next one. And the topic I was going to ask was, what is your most memorable moment from the 2022 NFL season? And now that question's answered for everybody, because this is one of those things
Hmm.
that this is more memorable than a butt punt or or the your guy taking off his helmet for Carolina, or any Dak interception, this stuff that we normally be kind of laughing and cutting up about. This is it, man. This is going to be one of the most memorable things in the history of sports.
Here's one thing that I suggest, and this is something we're recording this like we're unscripted. We talk about certain things, but we roll with the punches as it comes. I think as a semblance to what's going on, to what his family, what the Hamlin family is going through, the Bills organization, T. Higgins, the Cincinnati Bengals. T. Higgins has to be going through a lot. I think it is almost beneficial to us, to fans across whoever listens, all those that listen to us and everything. I think it's almost we would be doing a better justice if we continued that route. Let's try to remember other things in this year in the NFL, and let's continue so we can. The main focus will always be we are still waiting on good news, praying for good news about Demar Hamlin. It's in God's hands. And I say that with my heart of hearts. You are free to believe in who you may be believe in. I believe in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. It is in God's hands. Let us, as a podcast, let's continue on. Let's bring some light to this. I would suggest let's continue with the choices of the voices. Let's hear from the people about, besides this moment right here. Of course, this is first and foremost. What do you take away from this 2022 season? What do you remember outside of this moment? Maybe that's a suggestion. We can always continue with that process after we go off the air. But that's something I'm just thinking about.
Okay, that's definitely something to consider, and we may very well post that question at some point in this week during the course of this week. And I hopefully, like I said, hopefully by the time you're listening to this, we have something positive to go on, and then we will kind of go back to business as usual if we get to that point. But that's what made this so different. And yeah, I've heard some criticisms about the NFL that they were going to try to give these guys 5 minutes to warm up and then start the game over again. But they didn't. So why criticize that? Because that didn't happen. We've seen many times through the years a serious injury where guys are kneeling down on the field as one of their brothers are laying there with a head injury, neck injury, what have you, no matter what it is, and then you get a little bit of relief when you see something positive come of it, and even if they're carted away, you're out on the ambulance. These players are kind of programmed. Okay, that's going to be okay. Let's get back to normal. And I think that was the initial thought, is they were going to try to do this. I even saw a clip of Stephon Diggs, who's one of the leaders of the Bills, trying to rally the troops, but it just didn't work. It didn't happen.
Right.
Nobody was in that mindset. Even he wasn't in as much as he was trying. And I give the NFL credit for not saying, well, we need to get this game in because this game's important. They didn't do that. So any criticism thrown at the NFL in this instance, and I've been a critic of the NFL for many different things, I think they got it right with this one by canceling the game. They're going through something they've never gone through before. In 100 years of the league, this has never happened before. And they were unprepared because there's no contingency plan for if a guy almost dies on the field, what are we going to do next? That just has never happened. It's never been an issue. And the same with ESPN. They're doing their best to work on the fly that night, from the Buck and Aikman to who was it, Susie Colbert and McFarland and
Adam Schefter.
Adam Schefter. Right? Yeah, Adam Schefter. They were going back and forth, just trying to having nothing to go on, just trying to present a front of normalcy, and as the events were unfolding, and trying to figure out whether this game was going to be postponed to another time. I give credit to all those involved that night, and even late night. Scott Van Pelt and Ryan Clark, I thought, did a phenomenal job of kind of. I almost felt like they were like a rock that America was leaning on as they were watching that night. And Ryan Clark was very eloquent and very compassionate, and so was Scott Van Pelt. Under a completely unprecedented, terrible circumstance, I thought all that stuff was handled pretty well.
Yeah, and for me, it was just I've played the sport and I have gotten injured playing football, but not to this magnitude through the grace of God. And looking at a former player, as in Booger McFarland, as he was like really trying to get through, like you could see it on his face, like he was like visibly crushed.
Yeah.
He was visibly like visibly shaken. Like you can kind of hear it in Susie's voice. You can see it in Schefter's face, but out of everybody, I really felt for Booker McFarland. I'm like, man, he's about to. I don't know if they should have him on the set any longer talking about this because it's just it's at a point, as we said, and we won't continue to drag this on. There's only so much of this you can talk about, and me being having a degree in journalism and mass communications with a minor in communication studies, as a sports news outlet that carries the game, they have that obligation to report what they see. But then sometimes you're like, you know what? We're gonna have to call an audible. We're gonna have to figure something out because it was just painstaking. And I thought like at any minute, like either Booger's gonna bust out in tears or he's gonna walk off the set. But I mean,
There
shout
was
out
no
to Book.
precedent, like we said. They
No,
had there was no like just in case this happens, this
Yeah,
is what we're
yeah.
going to do. This has
no.
never happened before, and hopefully never again. Hopefully this is something that we'll never have to witness or experience again. But it's got to be. I mean, if you're a player in the NFL, you've got to be concerned getting back on the field this week. Like, how do you hit somebody for the next time out there, or take a hit? I mean, it's got to be on the back of your mind at this point. I mean, because this is such a huge story and such a huge deal. I mean, it's gonna feel different for a while.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, it's the tackle was a real common tackle.
Right.
Yeah, it's it, and this is something I'm going to do. If you fellows will allow me to,
Go ahead.
I'm gonna do what a lot of people haven't done when it comes to this. I'm I want to put it in a perspective that people don't really realize. First of all, what you guys have said are absolutely on point. As commentators, as play-by-play commentators, as everything that every role that has been played, ESPN, ABC, Disney, that whole conglomerate, they have a set job that they know to do. Susan Colbert, Booger McFarland, Adam Schefter, they're part of the halftime crew. They are going to talk about the game. They're going to talk about what happened in the past. I believe that's when they do the fastest 3 minutes with Chris Berman at that time too. They usually have that set up ready to go. They're not prepared for this at all. The only contingency might be with what they do during a weather delay. But you can't even do that at this moment of time because this is not a weather delay. This is something and for them to be able to do that live, this is not something that's pre-recorded. We record our show, but we do very little editing. Every now and again, something we say, we can cut it out, edit it, polish it up, polish that turn back up, and ship it out the way it should be happening. No, this is live TV. There's no cutting where you cut away the commercial, they come back, cut away the commercial. They're figuring this out on the fly. So hands off to them. And Susan Colbert took me through a whirlwind of emotions because she had that very low song. I really thought she was going to give me the worst news ever. But it just how do you handle that situation? I think ESPN handled it perfectly. I think the NFL handled it the best way they know how. I'm going to do something because I've been researching. I'm going to put it in perspective of NFL as a business and what they had to do at the very moment. Yes, first and foremost, it is Demar Hamlin and his health. Let's get that out of the way. And if anybody tries to interpret that in any other way, you really need psychiatric help. I'm gonna say that right now. You can be a critic all you want to. For all of you naysayers out there, this is the opportunity for you really to shut the hell up. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I'm being perfectly honest because I've seen too much of this mess all day. Like really, because somebody said that, oh, give them 5 minutes and let's regroup. They say that from a injury perspective. This was like if there is a major injury on the field, they do give teams a chance to regroup. This is not a major injury. This is a catastrophic injury that nobody's ever seen before. they're just going by a certain level of script when they say 5 minutes. That's not what they meant. So I really need people to shut up about that.
And not only that, but that was all Joe Buck had to go on. He was the one that kind of kept saying that. So he was also in uncharted territory. So go ahead.
So that's what, and I want to pinpoint that. Why did it take NFL so long to cancel the game? Because this is what happens if the game because this game had a lot of implications when it came to the entire season. Again, unprecedented. This is all the stuff as a business perspective you still have to think about. One person dies in a hospital, you don't shut down the entire hospital. You have to keep business as usual. It's still at the end of the day, yes, please, first and foremost, Demar Hamlin. The game in itself is Roger Goodell made a decision. It's not going to be played this week at all. The week 18 schedule has not changed. We still don't know what they're going to do about that game. The reason why this game has so much implications, I'm going to read it off to you as quickly as I can. If Buffalo wins this game, they are the number 1 seed via the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Chiefs. They clinch with the win over the Patriots, or the Chiefs lose to Vegas. The Bengals become the number 3 seed. They clinch the division and the number 3 seed with the win over the Ravens. The Bengals drop to number 5 with a loss to the Ravens. Bengals drop to number 6 with a loss to the Ravens, and Chargers win versus the Broncos. That's if Buffalo wins. Cincinnati wins. Cincinnati becomes the number 2 seed via head-to-head over the Bills. They clinch the division with that win. They clinch the number 1 seed with the win over the Ravens, and the Chiefs lose to Vegas. The Bills clinch number 2 seed with the win over the Patriots, and the Chiefs lose to Vegas. The Bills number 3 seed with the Chiefs win over Las Vegas Raiders. Now, what they talk about now, if they call it a tie, if the Bills and the Bengals, they call it a tie, the Chiefs clinch number 1 seed with the win over Vegas week 18. The Bills clinch number 1 with the win over the Patriots, and the Chiefs lose to Vegas. The Bengals no longer have a chance for the first number 1 seed in first round bye. Bills own the tiebreaker over the Bengals because of common opponents. Bills are 8-2 against common opponents. The Bengals are 7-3. Bills are no less than the number 2 seed due to common opponent tiebreaker over the Bengals. The Bengals clinch the division, however, because of the tie. And no better, no worse. They're just going to be the number 3 seed. The Ravens and Chargers are no better than number 5 seed, no worse than the 6 seed. In other words, a tie benefits the Chiefs, somewhat benefits the Bengals because they guarantee a home game because of the division win, but they have no chance at the number 1 seed. It's detrimental to the Bills because they would lose control over the number 1 seed. Bills win, they would be the number 1 seed, but they lose control with the tie. And it's detrimental to the Ravens because now they don't even have a chance at the division because of that. They call this game a tie. The reason why I wanted to put all of that out there is because it is still a business.
Could you repeat that?
Yes. I put in a little bit of work today because
you did. You really did. And
here's the thing. The reason why I did that is because, yes, all of our heart and emotions go out to Damar Hamlin. Absolutely. That's what everybody is thinking about right now. At the end of the day, this is still a business.
Mm-hmm.
And the business, y'all want to shut down the entire season? Go for it. Let's try that. Because that's essentially what people are calling for. The NFL has no heart. They have no sympathy. Come on. That's the kind of stuff that they still have to think about. The logistics behind it. If they move games, how they move games, how do people that want to see the game, et cetera, all kinds of stuff. I wanted to cover that just because everybody out there that's saying that the NFL doesn't have any heart, you have no idea how things are ran whatsoever. And if you have no idea how things are ran, you really have no opinion on the matter. Everybody thinks that they have an opinion because they have some type of social media outlet. And that, my friend, is an entire mess that I'm not going to get into because, I'm going to go back to my initial statement. Some people really should shut the hell up. And I may get canceled. My bad. I'm sorry, but I had to say that.
Yeah, there's no easy solution for the NFL in this whatsoever.
None.
And it we're hoping for the best possible outcome as soon as possible so that they can start to figure things out and go forward. But if it doesn't go the way we want it to, they're going to have even more bigger questions to answer going forward. So the NFL is in a tough spot as far as the way it went on Monday night. I thought they did. I thought they did the right thing, and the way they handled it, and the whole process. The coaches were involved, speaking with the league office, with Roger Goodell, with the officials. It was a gradual process, but they got to the right conclusion. I thought so. I have no complaint on how the NFL handled that at all.
Yeah, I think both teams with Zach Taylor and Sean McDermott was like, you know what? We can't do it.
Yeah.
We can't do it. I mean, this is a
You
and
can't possibly do it. You can't
no,
possibly do it that night. Absolutely.
no,
But
no.
and that's why I said I wanted to pinpoint the hour that it took. There was that conversation was being had because it again is a business. But I guarantee you, first and foremost was Demar Hamlin, and first and foremost were all his players and his teammates. That like you saw Stephon Diggs, he was trying to because at the end of they understand there was a lot on the line. And in some points, a lot of people are like, man, play on for me, man. They usually get the thumbs up and you get the rally cry and everything.
Yeah.
People come back up and this is unprecedented. It's unprecedented. And for people
the only thing I can think of in my lifetime that's even reminiscent of this was when Hank Gathers died on the court for Loyola Marymount back in 1990. And I've told you guys before, that's like that March Madness tournament was the most memorable of my life because of that, the events leading up to it with Hank Gathers. Excuse me. Hopefully we don't get to the point of what happened with Hank Gathers, but it was another, and I wasn't watching the Hank Gathers thing live either, but I've seen it enough times to see how eerie it was on the court with his teammates crying, visibly shaken as Hank Gathers was taken away, similar to how this young man was taken away. And again, we're just we just got to keep praying that this outcome is favorable, and yeah, and hopefully next week we're back to normal here, guys, and we're talking sports and cutting up and making fun of one another, and it's a more joyous occasion.
Forehead jokes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
man, and thoughts and prayers.
Yep.
Damar Hamlin. We are all Buffalo Bills. We're all for Damar Hamlin. And right now, that's all that matters.
Number 3.
Sure.
We are all Bills Mafia. We're going to pivot here shortly. We're going to talk about this upcoming national championship game, the one that no one saw coming, including us. TCU, or Horned Frog, and the Georgia Bulldogs. Coming up here next on Sports Bros Podcast. And we're back here at the Sports Bros Podcast. Normally, I would do the whole ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, insert funny thing here to beat our top 5. But as we stated at the beginning of the episode, we're doing things a little different today. It's going to be a short version of the Sports Bros Podcast. Imagine that, short version, Sports Bros Podcast. But anyway, here we are. And let's get in the world of college football and talk about the national championship, a.k.a. the title game that we did not expect. I'm pretty sure I know about you guys, but I didn't expect it none whatsoever. We have the reigning, defending national champions, Georgia Bulldogs, taking on the surprise team of the century. Yeah, I said it. The Horned Frogs of Texas Christian University. But before we do that, let's pivot and talk about the 2 semifinal games that we saw. The one between Michigan and TCU, and Ohio State and Georgia. Scotty D, what's your thoughts on each of those games?
Well, I love college football because of how all the games are so competitive.
Oh boy! Hey, you got your wish this time.
I tell you what, that day was phenomenal to watch. Not a lot in the way of defense, but it was definitely very cool to watch. They were exciting games, and I I really thought it was going to be Michigan and Georgia. I was very, very solid in that, and it almost went completely the opposite way. I mean, we just had a midnight field goal kick away from having Ohio State and TCU, the two underdogs. And guys, I know Ohio State was the lower ranked team. They were the 4 and TCU was the 3. But had it been those two teams, I'm certain Ohio State would have been a heavy favorite, which leads me to believe that Georgia has already played the toughest of the possible opponent. And I expect them to roll right through. I think they shook off the rust of being out for a few weeks, and be lives disagreeing with me, but I think Georgia is going to win this game convincingly. You disagree?
I absolutely disagree, because one team
Okay.
already disrespected TCU, and you're gonna say another team's gonna disrespect TCU and say that they don't belong?
I don't. I think they're
Man,
going to be. I think they've got refocused and re-jolted into reality, thinking that they could possibly be beat if they don't take care of business. And I mean, for much of the game, Ohio State looked like the better team. But I think Ohio State played a near perfect game, and Georgia played a very average to below average game, and that's how good they were. They were able to overcome that in the end, and they wriggled off the hook with a missed field goal. I mean, a good kick at midnight, and it's a whole different championship.
very very much so. I look at it just a little bit differently. Like, I feel once again that Harbaugh was not prepared. I feel like they were just a little bit lackadaisical. That
Yeah.
vaunted Michigan defense that we've seen all year.
Ugh.
Um, here's something else that I want to say. I'm gonna say this. People don't believe me. I think the toughest conference this year, just to be honest with you, the toughest conference was the Pac-12. The second toughest conference was the Big 12. I think top to bottom, TCU played a lot more meaningful football, especially when you compare the two resumes, TCU and Michigan. Michigan played one, I think maybe 2 ranked opponents the entire year. The Big Ten was bad. They were.
They usually are. They usually are.
Now you throw in a Wisconsin in there. You throw in a Penn. Wisconsin had a bad year. Penn State
Really?
was
Yeah. Okay.
mid level, but outside of that, it was ugh, and it showed. It showed. Michigan played nobody this year, and they got smacked in the mouth, and they just kept giving the ball to TCU. How many points did TCU's defense score? Like, and there was at least 2 touchdowns. You can't win a game like that. And the fact that, good lord, I keep looking at these scores, and I want to say that there was no defense played. That those 2 defensive scores by TCU. I think Georgia could fall into that same boat. Who has Georgia played outside of Oregon, Tennessee, and LSU? That's the 3 toughest games this year.
Who's they playing? I think you're right. The SEC was not as strong.
The SEC pundits are going to say that, oh yeah, Tennessee beat Clemson, and Alabama beat Kansas State, that beat TCU. Da 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 da. But I'm talking about who's in right now. Georgia, the best team in the SEC. Who did they play? And so, did Ohio State probably prepare them a little bit better for TCU? Absolutely. Do I think that Georgia could blow out TCU? It's a possibility. But I'm not gonna sit here and say that TCU doesn't have a chance. Absolutely not. I think them boys got a chip on their shoulder, and they literally have nothing to lose.
I hope that it goes that way. I hope we have another killer type of championship game. I hope it falls right in the pattern. I just don't think it will be. I think Georgia will beat them by 2 touchdowns.
I will say this. I'm gonna take my emotion out of it. I say Georgia by 3. I think it's a hard fought game. I think Georgia ends up with the ball late. I think Georgia ends up with the ball late, and they're able to wear out the clock late. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring. I think it's going to be probably 28-25, 28-24, something of that nature. It's not going to be 51-45 or 42-41. But before Eddie Cool, because I want to hear what you have to say about this as well. But I want to go. I just give me a moment once again. I'm being long-winded today. I will always fight for sports, but screw with TCU versus Michigan. Screw with Georgia versus Ohio State. January 1st, 2023, however you want to look at it. Coming into the new year, you had the battle of all time. You had DJ B Live versus DJ Kelly over what we had on the TV come midnight. Because she wanted to change the channel from the Ohio State Georgia game when they were kicking the field goal. She wanted to change it to the ball drop in Times Square. Man, I said, we is not doing that. I actually got the remote control from the bartenders because she was looking for it. She was like, "Oh, we're about to change it." I'm like, I'm over here hiding the remote from her. Like 5 minutes. I'm like 2 minutes, 1 minute. I'm like, no. Half the bar was like, change the channel, won't see the ball. I'm like, we're watching the game.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Pandemonium.
You've seen a ball drop before. It happened last year.
Right.
I mean, this game, we don't know what's going to happen.
It's the same. Man, oh man, we came to an agreement. Like I had to think on the fly. I was like, all right, you can have your TV. I'm gonna have my TV over here. And we saw the kick wide left. Yeah. How did Neil deGrasse Tyson do it in the video? Yeah.
Yep.
I feel bad for that kicker for Ohio State because that's just devastating. Young kid.
Yeah.
Everything on the line. 0-0-0, 1-1-23. They almost happened simultaneously. What a game. This was the best college playoff semifinals we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
2 games, very, very highly contested. No blowouts. This was wonderful. Eddie Cool, well, what did you see?
Well, just like you, I was at work because you know me, I be working all day, all the damn time. But luckily for me, I was in the bar area working, and the place is my favorite, so I had a chance to look, back and forth between both games. The Michigan TCU game, I'm over here like, what is going on? It was like they were like what 21-6, and then like Michigan started roaring back, and then I told somebody, I said, watch, TCU gonna mess around and run it down their leg, and then next thing you know, somebody from TCU was running all the way back to the other end, scoring a touchdown. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I was like, oh boy, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know what Jim Harbaugh got planned, but he better figure out something quick, fast, and in a hurry. But I think with that game, TCU wanted it more. Max Duggan, he wanted it more, and he showed why, he deserved to be in the conversation for the Heisman. Max Duggan is that dude. He is that dude. I'm not going to say him back. Oh man, is that dude. And Michigan got outclassed, outplayed, and outcoached. Georgia and Ohio State. I had an idea it was going to be a slugfest. It was going to be back and forth, back and forth. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is only a freshman. All right.
Welcome to the show. Jesus.
Yeah, he's only a freshman. I told somebody, I was like, he's only a freshman? They said, yeah, he's only a freshman. And I was like, wow. Yeah, for him to be a freshman, that's pretty impressive. And, it's just, he's out there looking like his daddy, running routes and everything. And so
and his injury did change the course of the game a little bit. It did influence the game.
Yeah, it did influence the game, but had it been healthy, Georgia would be in Athens, and would be in Athens, and that's all I got to say about that. Would be in Athens.
It'd at least it'd have been a short trip for them. They from Atlanta to Athens, and
A bus
yeah,
ride.
yeah. Ohio State came to play. Georgia had to score 18 points in the fourth quarter to come back to win and come back to win that game because Ohio State was having their way. C.J. Stroud said, "Hey, y'all forgot about me. I understand. There was hype elsewhere, but I am still that dude."
He was very impressive that day. Very.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, man, just I saw like that TCU Michigan game. They scored 44 points in the third quarter.
That's crazy. That's nuts.
Just back, it was man.
That was exciting.
It was very exciting. I very much enjoyed it. So, Scotty D, you say Georgia by 2 touchdowns. I say Georgia by 3. Eddie Cool, what you say about TCU versus Georgia?
Georgia by 3 touchdowns.
Oh, good Lord. You are not giving y'all just disrespectful. Hey, TCU, I want y'all to hear this. I want this to be bulletin board material because Scotty D and Eddie Cool don't believe in y'all. I do. I still say y'all by 3. I mean, y'all gonna make it a game. But they know they saying y'all not even showing up in Los Angeles. Okay, all right.
No, losing by 2 touchdowns doesn't mean you haven't shown up. I just think that Georgia will be better than them by 2 touchdowns. I think the spread is right around that as well. Isn't the spread like 13 or so?
Mm-hmm. Oh, Lord, please tell me the spread ain't that.
I think it's 13 to 13 and a half. That was the opening spread.
Yeah,
and actually, I would feel silly if I didn't mention one other incredible bowl game, and that was the LSU versus Purdue game.
See, that's not necessary. That is not necessary. That is highly disrespectful, man.
The Citrus Bowl was a nail biter this year to the tune of 63-7. But just had to throw one of those traditional college football digs in there.
Yeah, the Cheez-Its Bowl and the Mayonnaise Bowl, and next thing you know, it's going to be Eddie Cool's Country Kitchen ham and cheese sandwich. Get your groove on bowl. I'm just saying.
this is what I'm going to do for all the people out there because what we're going to do next week when we're going to record after the national championship game, so we're going to cover what happens. You're going to hear. I'm going to feature a very special Be Live top 5, and it's going to be the Be Live top 5 most ridiculously named college football bowl games. I'm gonna feature that next week, and oh yes, it's gonna be a doozy. I'm guaranteed. Just go ahead and get your popcorn ready because this is gonna be a good. Yes, sir.
You better get your popcorn ready.
I look forward to next week, guys. I really do. I mean, this has been it's been nice to break the ice with you, get back on track here from the new year. But and we apologize that we have not been a little bit more fun than we usually are. But the circumstances have been different this week.
Yep, and hopefully, as Scotty D said, by the next few days, or hopefully
before we release this episode, we've already heard good information.
Yeah, we get some good news. We get some good information because, as we mentioned before, the NFL is at a literal standstill. I think even 9/11 didn't have them at a standstill like this. I think it did, right?
Well, they canceled a week.
Yeah,
and before resuming, yeah,
they canceled the whole week. So, once again, thoughts and prayers go to Demar Hamlin and his family. We're all a member of Bill's Mafia, the Fighting Pat Narduzzi's, aka the Pitt Panthers.
Absolutely.
Yep. And with that being said, fellas, you got anything to say before we get up out of here?
I want to say this to everyone that has donated to that GoFundMe page. Hats off to all the fans out there. His goal was $2,500. Damar Hamlin, over $4 million has been raised for kids. I believe the kid he wanted to provide toys for kids, and his goal was $2,500. 6th-round draft pick. He makes it to the big dance, and to make such an impact. I hate it under these circumstances, but I'm incredibly thankful for all the fans out there that have been able to reach out and do what they can. And we also highly recommend to look up that GoFundMe page for Demar Hamlin and providing toys for kids, and just reach out to him and his family in that form of matter. Hopefully, like I said, news and media outlets, the professionals will provide us with more information moving forward. Until then, our prayers continue with the Hamlin family.
Scotty D, you got
Keep
anything
praying, folks. Yep, just keep praying. Keep praying.
Yep, and I think you guys speak for all of us. Just keep praying, keep believing. Miracles happen. Miracles, they really, really do happen if you're a believer. If you're not a believer, at least have them in your thoughts, and just hope that just hope and pray that he gets better. If he plays football again at this point in time, really doesn't matter. Just want to see him just open his eyes and enjoy the rest of his life. He's a young fella, 24 years old. He's got a lot of time ahead of him, and so yeah. So thoughts and prayers out of him as well too. And in closing, do something nice for yourself. And if you can, do something nice for someone else. They'll greatly appreciate it now more than ever. Be a blessing, not a burden. And for the first time in 2023, and definitely not last, it's been another episode of the Sports Bros Podcast. Be nice to each other. Just take care of each other. And see you next week right here on the Sports Bros Podcast. Hey, it's Eddie Cool here from the Sports Bros Podcast. And do you want some more of the Sports Bros Podcast in your life? Wait a minute, don't answer that. The answer is yes. And I know you want some more of the Sports Bros Podcast in your life. Do us a small favor. Go to the description box, click our Linktree link, and you'll see all the links on how to follow the Sports Bros Podcast. Once again, thanks for listening.